All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to start the meeting. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Everybody look those over.
Mr. President, I have a motion to amend the minutes.
Okay.
And these have to do with a couple of motions I made at the end of last meeting. And I wrote the text out just to be clear of the motion because just for the interest of simplicity, they're on these if you'd like to see it. But I was very deliberate in how I stated those motions because I appreciate the procedural order and the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission with respect to these matters. And so I want to make a motion to the effect of this. It has to do with two motions. The first one isn't reflected at all in the draft minutes, and we're looking at the bottom of page 5, the last paragraph. I am moving to delete that paragraph and to substitute it with this text, which is as follows, 2 paragraphs. Ms. Edwards moved to request the zoning administrator be present at the next meeting to answer questions about the draft revised solar text amendment included in the agenda packet. Motion failed for lack of a second. Ms. Edwards moved to schedule a public hearing to consider recommending that the county commission repeal current solar text amendment or otherwise place a moratorium on further solar development pending the enactment of revised solar facility standards. Motion failed for lack of a second. And again, I wasn't able to find, I don't think the archive meetings, the transcript is up yet, and YouTube cut out after our executive session as it often does. So I wasn't able to confirm the exact language, but I'm certain that that was the drift of those motions. And in particular, I definitely did not make a motion for the Planning Commission to implement a moratorium because in my understanding, the Planning Commission doesn't have the jurisdiction to do that. We have to make recommendations to the County Commission and we have to proceed that with a public hearing. So that's why I deliberately made the motion. It seemed a little convoluted in the way it was presented, but it was presented because I understood there to be a sequence of actions that I was proposing. And again, it failed for lack of a second. I would just like the minutes to reflect what actually happened.
Commissioners, if I may interject briefly on this regarding the recording, as I was a one-man show that evening. Unfortunately, I was the cause of that recording cutting off and not restarting accurately, which is also in part as some of the recording was not as clear as it could have been as to why these motions may not have been captured in their full.
I'll second the motion.
I don't, discussion?
Yeah, we got a motion and we got a second. Any discussion?
I don't remember that being like that. My recollection is that you specifically made a motion to impose a moratorium on solar.
I did not. I promise you I did not do that. I would not have done that.
That's what I think you did.
I did mention a moratorium because again, but the process would be schedule a public hearing on a recommendation to the county commission to repeal the current solar text amendment or in effect to place a moratorium pending the Planning Commission's work and the enactment of a revised solar text amendment. That was based on the fact that we were pushing the matter off again a few more months. And as I've made this point at every meeting, that the matter was referred to the Planning Commission in December of 2023. And so I would like the record to reflect that.
It would be the dead horse here. I don't remember saying all this entailed, blah, 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 all we have to do it. I just remember more sure, like what Mr. Shutt said.
Well, I guess that's the point. He tried to just say this is what you get.
That's what you meant, but what you said, good thing.
It's not, I definitely said, schedule a public hearing, recommend to the county commission because I'm certain.
And you are correct on the, I went back and tried to look at the video and after executive session, it did not come back on.
Well, I think the good faith, I wasn't here, so I really don't have a skin in the game here, but I don't think it's worth fighting over. I think this is what she remembers and it's just the record of what the motion was not seconded. But if, Krista would like this.
Yeah, but it's making a record that doesn't exist, in my opinion. I don't think that's what happened.
All right, so this, what's on this paper is what your motion is, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the motion is on page 5, delete last paragraph and substitute. Ms. Edwards moved to request zoning administration be present at the next meeting to answer questions about draft revised solar text amendment, including the agenda packet. Motion failed for lack of second. Next is Ms. Edwards moved to schedule a public hearing to consider recommendation that the county commission repeal the current solar text amendment or otherwise place a moratorium on further solar development pending the enactment of revised solar facility standards. Motion failed for lack of seconds. So it's been moved. That's the motion. It's been second. All in favor, raise your hand.
I have a question. Nathan, am I allowed to vote on this since I was not here at the last meeting and it wasn't recorded? I feel uncomfortable voting on this one.
Yeah, I don't see how you can vote on it since you have no independent recollection and there's no recording.
All right, you got the in favor votes? Luke? All right, all opposed? Motion fails.
Mr. President, may the text of the minutes for this evening's meeting reflect the full text of my motion as opposed to some paraphrase of it.
All right, the approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes, how they are? Been properly moved in second to approve as written. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 2, request for postponement. Luke?
We do not have any motions for postponement.
Okay, we're moving on to agenda item number 3. It's a public hearing waiver from section 20.201.A.2 to reduce the required access easement width from 50 foot to 35 foot to accommodate a well, or a waiver from section 21.402.D to allow for a structure within an easement. The proposed waivers will bring the property into compliance with the subdivision regulations. Property owners Shelton Everhart, property location 89 Morgan Grove Road, Shepherdstown, West Virginia. There's a parcel ID. 8 acres is the size. Zoning district rural. Staff?
This spring, this minor subdivision was proposed and it did all the necessary processing. This is an administrative minor subdivision. It met all of the requirements and they moved through the approval stage. And essentially at the last minute prior to recordation, it came to our attention that there was a mistake. Staff missed a part that we typically would have actually called out. If you move to the second page of your staff reports, you will see that this minor subdivision, specifically in this lot B2, there is the 50-foot access easement along the property line on the east side, and that is the standard 50-foot access easement that they had as required. However, the well, which is permitted by the health department, was within that 50-foot access easement, and staff didn't miss it during our reviews back and forth. And we are here this evening with the applicant to discuss essentially 2 different options of a waiver to rectify this situation. The first one I put under request 1 is to reduce the required access easement from the required 50-foot to 35 foot for this minor subdivision. This would make sure that the well is not located within the access easement and it's, recorded as that. So in the event that anything else is potentially done into the future, we know where the required access easement is and where the well is, without actually having any encroachments within the access easements. Request number 2, or option number 2, I should say, is as an alternative, you retain the required 50-foot access easement, but allow an encroachment within the access easement, i.e. still 50 foot, but the well is within this. Staff has a recommendation you can find within our staff report, but I'll save any further comments until after the applicant presents.
Is the applicant here? Speak up and into the microphone. Make sure it's on. check her.
I'll come over.
Get closer to the.
Just this one? No, it's just three.
No one did anything.
So,
Oh, it's on now.
There we go.
Thank you.
I like
My
it.
name is Barbara Kearns with Alpha Associates. I submitted this for Sheldon Everhart. I think the first, just to reduce the 50-foot right of way to 35 feet is in compliance with what a subdivision should be. There are only going to be 3 lots being used by this right of way. It's an existing right of way as it sits. There is an existing gravel driveway. And just 2 other lots are going to be using that driveway along with the residue of the property. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question about something you just said. You said that the right of way is existing. Do you mean the road is existing?
The road is existing. The driveway is existing at this point.
Okay, but not a right of way yet.
It's not a right of way yet, no.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any other
How
questions?
wide is the driveway?
I believe it's 10 feet at this point. It's an existing gravel.
Commissioners, anything else?
Is there, and this would be for staff and for the applicant, are there going to be any other future plans for development that
Not
may
to my
come into
knowledge.
conflict
No,
with
not to my
allowing
knowledge.
this waiver?
No, it's to remain the 3-lot subdivision.
And behind that, I think, is the CXX Railroad, so
That
there's
is
no adjoining
correct.
parcel that it could connect to.
Yeah, you
Thank
can't,
you.
can't do any more
Commissioner
with it.
Garcia, if I could add one aspect to this, if granting request 1 and reducing the required access easement, any hypothetical future developments would also have to get a waiver to be able to access the 35-foot access easement in the event that is the direction you go in. But as the applicant has stated, if that's not the interest, it's an irrelevant point, but a small one.
Thus, the commission may be compelled to approve another exception or waiver.
I certainly wouldn't put it as compelled. It's always at the discretion of the planning commission, but one would need to be granted by the planning commission should any further development on the residue of the parcel be pursued.
Thank you.
Yes, and as Jonathan pointed out, to further clarify this, request 2 would not require a waiver in the event that request 2 was done. If there was further development, they would not need to come back in front of the planning commission in the event that request 2 is granted.
Commissioners, anything else for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
This time, I'd like to open up public comment. Since we have nobody signed up, we're going to close public comment. Applicant, you have anything else? That's it?
That's it.
Staff, what's your recommendations?
Staff would recommend the granting of request 1. Or the first one, which is to reduce the required access easement to 35 feet. And I should note, as I put in the staff report here, and we've spoken with the applicant about this, they will be submitting a new plat to reflect this change. That would happen either way, but that would be staff's recommendation.
I'd like to motion that we accept request number 1 as presented.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we accept request number 1 as presented. Any discussion? If all not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And there's a pretty rancher for sale there with a cute front porch, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it on Zillow. I'm not trying to buy it, but I think it's really cute.
Yeah.
So I like the front porch.
All right, next on the agenda is agenda item number 4. It's a waiver from section 220.102.b of the subdivision regulation to begin the leveling process of land before the site plan is approved by the planning commission. The proposed project is the Willow Campground property owner, Adrian, I'll butcher that last name. And I definitely ain't gonna get that one. Property location, vacant 11.64 acre lot along Charlestown Road, Charlestown, West Virginia, partial ID, size numbers 11.64 acres, zoning district rural. Staff?
Thank you. The concept plan for the Willow Camp campground came before Planning Commission last year. And before doing any site grading, essentially, they need to have in place the various processing. That's not just something that can start. The county does not have an early grading permit process. So in practice, whenever an applicant would like to begin grading of the site prior to full approval of the site plan as well as bonding, they need to come before Planning Commission to get a waiver of that provision in order to essentially be granted an early grading permit. To the planning commissioners who have not been here before when we occasionally have one of these requests, staff has a typical list of recommended waiver request conditions. You can see that on the second page. Those are all very typical. Jonathan has, I believe, perfected them over the course of the years here, essentially to ground down to making sure that they are in conformance with their NPDES permits, that the site improvements related to specifically sediment and erosion control are bonded, and that the owner developer assumes all risks, essentially making sure that in the event that any changes need to be made following grading, it's not at fault of the county. They took on the risk of jumpstarting this instead of the normal process. We have a number of these requests come through time to time. Obviously, they're not pounding on the door and we don't have a normal process for it outside of this waiver. So this is why we're here before you tonight for this request. And I think I'll leave the rest for the applicant.
Thank you. Staff has teed that up pretty well. Just to remind you that this is a campground site, so this won't be your typical complete grading of a site. It's going to be a little bit more surgical and precise because they do want to save as many trees as possible and work with the grading process there. So we're really probably talking about, maybe 8 acres of this 11 or 12 acre parcel. That'll be sort of surgically worked around to retain as many trees as possible. The applicant does agree to the conditions that staff has outlined here with bonding and NPDES permits and other county requirements, and again, bonding. So just to go through the 4 points quickly, because that's what you have to evaluate all waivers on is basically the first question is, regarding county maintenance costs, greater open space, park land consistent with the county parks plan or similar nature. So there's going to be no impact on the county maintenance open cost or parkland. There's no dedicated open space with a campground of this site plan. So there's no really county cost. Let's see, explain how the waiver, if granted, will not adversely affect public health, safety, welfare, or the rights of adjacent property owners. This will not affect adjacent property owners at all. We're going to meet all county requirements standards anyway, through the bonding requirement and through the sediment and erosion control practices. So I think it's important to understand, instead of doing things step by step, we're just asking to do things concurrently. We're not asking to really get out of requirements. We're just asking to manage steps together instead of sequentially. So there's not going to be any cutting of the corners. There's not going to be an impact of the public health, safety, and welfare. In fact, I'd argue, since this is sort of a precise trimming of the trees, that we're doing a better job than if this were a true land development. We're just kind of pushing over acres and acres to grade the site for home pads. Finally, actually, second to last is if the waiver of grant will be keeping intent with purpose ordinance. Again, all the public protection measurements are in place, as I've stated here already in this regard. And then finally, if granted, will result in a project of better quality of character. We certainly think that it will, because of the fact that we're leaving more trees in place, will result in greater green area, less impervious area, and sort of less heat island effect areas where there's, gravel and other things of that nature. So it will certainly result in a project of better character collectively. So again, really, we're not asking to get out of any requirements. We're just asking to be able to walk and talk at the same time versus do one at a time. And that's really the nature of our request. Thank you.
Commissioners, you got any questions for the applicant?
So the,
Hold on.
Seth, you have your NPDES permit in hand?
We do not at this time, so we're working on that.
And you cannot start grading until you get.
That's correct.
And then the 20-unit campsite, is it with RV hookups or is it just raw, no?
They will have, it'll be more like a glamping. They'll actually have the trailers there, if you will. They won't look like trailers, but that's functionally what they'll be. And so they're actually purchasing those. You'll rent one of those for your stay.
Will it
So-
have like bathrooms or?
Oh, yeah, the bathroom. So, I guess the best way to think about these is,
Like,
it-
like cabins, like little.
yeah,
personal
cabins that are on
property
wheels.
that you live in.
That's what I want to say. I wanted to say they're almost like an RV, but they're more of a cabin style. And they are on wheels. And they're pre-manufactured. They'll order them from Pennsylvania, so they'll meet that building code requirement. And so they'll be on site. So they will have, usually one bedroom, bathroom, a little front living room area. So, I mean, I imagine they're about, 400 to 500 square feet structures that are on there, and they'll have well and septic to each one of them.
And this is just like recreational weekend, short-term stuff?
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, if you remember with the concept plan, there's going to be a multitude of things. So, there'll be like these 20 glamping spots, right? Where you'll go and rent a structure. There will be a little bit of a pickleball court. There'll be a community structure. There'll be some outdoor dining areas. There'll be some outdoor tables, sort of kind of have like a community evening dinner if you want to come and attend. So there'll be what they call a long table. I mean, imagine something like this, but a little bit longer where, all the campers can come out and there'll be cookout spot over here and an overlook on the river, a little sauna down on the river. So it's sort of a collective sort of thing. That will be a really tourism attraction, quite frankly, from an economic development standpoint here. That's a little bit different than we have in
Yeah,
the county.
Pickleball's awesome.
It is.
And so the 20 campsites, so it's more like tiny homes almost.
Yes, correct.
It
I'd like to
won't-
say
it-
they're like small accessory dwelling units.
They won't look like mobile homes.
No, they won't look
Okay.
like mobile homes, and they almost really won't look like, this is why I'm struggling with words. They won't look like a mobile home, and they won't look like a trailer in the sense of like you parked an RV down there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna have like a wood-sided look to it and everything
Like
else.
The bulkhead ones sold up like a Hanover, Pennsylvania, where they sell that.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Have you
And it
seen
will
the-
have a nice little porch if you'd like to come out to it.
Have you seen the ones at KOA and Harper's Ferry? Do they look like that?
Yeah, there's something like that, correct.
And how many wells do you anticipate drilling to serve this?
One well for several.
Do you remember the amount of wells that, as one is recommended so fell by
For all
the health
20?
department?
So you're going to have one well
One well. This is
And-
recommended so far by the health department.
and you're going to have how many septic fields?
We think 4 at this point. 4. Yes,
So Seth,
go ahead.
Seth, we've already approved your concept plan.
That's correct.
They were before the body in December.
Correct.
Yeah.
Commissioners?
A couple of questions
Public comment?
on the vegetation. I assume I don't believe you identified yourself. I assume
Krista?
you're-
I'm sorry.
Krista, can you put the mic in front of you?
Yes.
We can hear.
I
Certainly.
assume you're representative.
Yeah, my name
I-
is Seth Rivard. I'm representing Alana and Adrian on this project at Camp Willow.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just had a couple of questions about the vegetation and was hoping to address them to the applicants, but I will address them to you instead.
Sure.
And I wanted, in the event that they were here, to preface this by saying that I believe you satisfy the standards and subject to the conditions that have been recommended. Unless I'm missing something, I'd be inclined to vote for it. So I just wanted to say that by way of saying, there's nothing coercive about these questions, but I do have questions about, you talked about the surgical tree removal, and I'd like to approach this from the perspective of recognizing the value of native plants and distinguishing between native and non-natives. And without getting into a whole discussion there, I just would say that even our governor has recommended that in
Yep.
a couple of declarations stating the importance of preserving native plants. I think it's especially important in our county, which is undergoing such rapid development. And at this particular site, just because it is especially environmentally sensitive being on the river. So I preface it with that to say that when you make these, and I do appreciate what the applicants have represented about the importance of doing this work now while the leaves are on the trees so that the best decisions can be made about which trees get removed. And I appreciate what you've said about it being surgical. I would just suggest and hope that some attention would be paid to removing invasive trees and preserving native ones to the extent that the project permits you to do that. I had an experience on my own property where we needed to remove a few trees and discovered that we had a lot of this ailanthus tree, which is invasive. It's a host plant for the spotted lanternfly, which is very troubling for certain local crops. So to the extent that you could make those surgical decisions and remove the troublesome invasive species, that would be in the public interest. And when it comes to smaller vegetation, there are options to salvage, preserve, and even rescue native plants that would otherwise come under the bulldozer. I don't think it's ever been done in our county, but there are other counties where this is routinely done with development that we have a lot of people in our community who are experts on native plant identification. We have professionals, we have volunteers, and often, typically, this is done as a volunteer project to have people come in and rescue, relocate native plants. And I would just wonder if the applicants would be interested in pursuing something like that and connecting with people who might be interested, and if the project timetable permits it.
Sure.
And the like. I think it would be a way to enhance the quality of this project, given that people are going there presumably to enjoy the natural beauty, to make the project a good neighbor, and to be a good steward of the river. So that's the sort of question, if you want to address it. If you don't want
Certainly,
to address it,
I can
okay.
summarize it. I think your points are well taken regarding protecting of the native species as much as possible and removing any invasive species. And I think having worked with them, I think that's something I can have that discussion with them. I think they'll be open to that. And any plannings that they do, we can talk about that as well. Without getting into it, I mean, in my background, I spent years in public side. And so I've drafted ordinances relating to buffer protection, tree protection, and actually creating an ordinance banning certain invasive species. So it resonates with me, and I understand that as well, the importance of native species and maintaining those here in our region.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Garcia.
I had a question for staff, and maybe this will help a little bit. Was this concept plan approved with a tree preservation plan, landscaping concept plan?
It was not, my recollection, tree preservation was not part of the concept plan. I would note that, and this isn't necessarily something that you would find necessarily reflected in minutes, but you can see based on the sketch that was provided at the concept plan stage that as a campground, their expectation has been to retain that. I believe there was at least a little bit of a mention that in either their summary or otherwise.
Okay, thank you. For the applicant, just to dovetail on my colleagues' comments, just to encourage, even though we're at this later stage and we're not talking about landscaping at this point, we're talking about grading and starting to move some earth, just encourage to address the invasive species. I think she's referring to also Ailanthus altissima, tree of heaven, which is actually invasive and one that's common around this area that needs to be removed. So please, we encourage you to do that. But in theory, given the concepts plan's already been approved, I'm inclined to support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else? Oh, we're getting to that. Settle down back there now.
Let me ask you this question real quick of staff. So they have the concept plan approved. If we approve this waiver, it's just for the grading. It's not for anything else. If we deny this waiver, then they have to wait until they get the site plan approved administratively, and then they can proceed with their current plan.
That is correct. And to reiterate, in case if the audio didn't catch that, yes, they can continue to proceed even if this isn't, the waiver granted, just to be able to do the grading starting as well. It's not even starting immediately. It's starting when they get the NPDES permits approved per the conditions that the applicant has both agreed to, as well as staff has recommended as conditions of waiver.
Thank you.
Thank you, applicant.
Thank you.
This time, we'd like to open public comment. We state your name, come up here and give your name and your full address. Christine Marshall.
It's Christine Marshall. I live in Shepherdstown or outside of Shepherdstown. I think part of my question was reading the application, I wasn't clear that an MPDES permit has been applied for. So has it been applied for and has it been determined that it will be for the entire 8 acres? And then in that case, the wording in here talks about the MPDES for 1 acres. It will only be required if it's over an acre, but the whole site is 8 acres, which may require an MPDES permit. And I don't see how staff could evaluate the project without the MPDES in place. So my question is, have they engaged the West Virginia DEP and applied for a permit to disturb more than an acre? And in that case, I think it may be prudent to wait and not get a waiver for early grading until the MPDES permit is in place. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. So at this time, I'd like to close public comment. Applicant, you want to answer some of those questions?
Yes, just really quickly. Thank you for your comments. So as stated, the NPDES permit has not been submitted. The 1 acre was just noting that if the applicant wanted to get a jump start, they can clear up to 1 acre without any sort of requirements, an NPDES permit. Beyond that, then they have to get the NPDES permit. So, to clarify, staff will be reviewing this against the NPDES permit when that comes in. So in order and process, you're just granting the ability tonight when documents are in order and give them to your staff that they can then review this and they've got the pre-approval from you to allow us to then go forward. So your vote really effectively doesn't do much tonight until our documents are turned into staff. Staff can review them and then give it back to us. So the concern about how can staff review this without the NPDES permit is very valid, very legitimate, and very reasonable, but they will have that information when we submit it to them. So I think, again, this really isn't about cutting corners. It's about doing things, sequentially, versus, or consecutively versus sequentially. So that's really the nature of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commission?
I move we approve the waiver as written with the 3 conditions provided by staff.
Second.
Been properly moved in second. We approve it with the conditions recommended by staff. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next item is agenda item number 5. Discussion and updates on Parks and Recreation's master plan. Staff?
I am not one to steal thunder, so I'd like to hand it over to the incomparable Jennifer Myers. Wow.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to take a few minutes of your time tonight and share some information about a new park that Jefferson County Parks and Recreation is working on. And I will say Commissioner Keys was actually a part of the steering committee for this park. So if I forget anything and she wants to throw something at it, feel free to feel free to jump in.
That's why there's so many pickleball courts. Just
Yes,
kidding.
lots of pickleball courts. So for the past probably 10 years, Jefferson County Parks and Recreation has worked with Jefferson County schools on the idea of park school concepts. So when you build a school in Jefferson County, we would love to have the opportunity to, build an adjoining park to really utilize those facilities as much as possible for the community. So we're very fortunate that when we were looking, at maps and when the county was doing the comprehensive planning, that, you see pockets in the county where maybe there needs to be more parks or there's not a county park. And the area of Shepherdstown is one of the places. They've got some wonderful parks, privately owned and within the city limits, but there was no county park on the Shepherdstown side. So we have worked with the schools and we're going to be developing it's about a 38-acre site right beside Shepherdstown Elementary School. And I think a future middle school to develop a park there for the community. So, and I'm not sure if Luke sent out, did you send out, do they have a copy of this or?
We do. It's in
Here
our
we go.
packet.
On the
Okay.
fourth to last page.
Okay, perfect. So as you can see here, we met, we had, 4 to 6 meetings over the last, the fall and the winter months. This concept plan was approved by the Parks and Recreation Board, I believe officially in April or May. We went to the County Commission in June for approval, and now we're here tonight just to fill the Planning Commission on the plans as well. So we have received, a lot of different public feedback. We did surveys, we had several meetings, and we've encouraged the public to really be a part of this concept plan. And I believe they received over 100 comments, with the online surveys that they did alone. And that doesn't include, at the public meetings and things like that. So it's definitely been a project that's been, I think well received by the public. And we were really excited to hear a lot of the feedback that we were given with that. So as you can see on the plan, there's several areas that we will be able to allow parking within the park. This park will be at the corner of Gardner's Lane and Shepherdstown Pike, or Route 230. And we will be accessing and using the road that takes you into the school system. So the road off of Gardner's Lane would be the access point that is proposed for this to access this park. And then off of that, we will be able to have 3 separate parking lots that we will be able to gate and cordon off. So the plan is to be able to have power there, wells, septic, everything that we need. And then when areas of the park are closed, at dusk or dawn, we can put the gates down to help make sure that we have, protective areas of the park and to help kind of decrease some of the activity maybe near the school as well. We have plans for several pavilions throughout the park. We have a great lawn, which is, you'll see as item number 1 there. That we can hopefully do community events and activities. There's pickleball courts, tennis courts. We also have basketball courts planned, as well as a pump track, which is, I believe, the first one in Jefferson County that would be hopefully be put in here. Additionally, we have plans for multi-purpose fields, athletic fields that can be used for, football, lacrosse, soccer, a multitude of activities. And then number 13, which is one of the items that we've been very excited about, is we plan to build a fully inclusive ADA playground, which would have the port-in-place surfacing. The goal is to make this more, a $2 million playground is going to get you a large structure that can accommodate the entire county and also be a destination. So a lot of people travel, people love to go see different playgrounds, and we want to get people to come here to Jefferson County and use these items here as well. Additionally, there are, I'm probably forgetting 2 or 3 things here. Walking trails and areas within the park that have been set aside for stormwater management, but we did have a lot of concerns about having, large areas potentially of water near schools, near a park, near the children. So we're really looking at more of a bio retention where we can do plantings and planting trees around the property line as well. So we really tried to make sure that there was something for everyone. So you've got, again, your pickleball tennis courts, you've got your tot lots, you've got your playground. So there's something for everybody to do.
And we also have there's a great trail too
Yes.
that goes around.
Yeah, there's a perimeter trail that goes around the property. And the one thing that some of the public feedback we received is we wanted to make sure that when you're on this trail and you're walking through, you have the ability to see the playground, or be able to access the playground from several areas in several directions. The playground here would be fenced because it would be a fully inclusive playground. So it would have to be a fenced-in playground. So not only would there be perimeter fencing around the park, but that playground itself would be fenced as well.
So it's right along 230?
Yes. It is, the best way to describe it is, when you think of mountain biking, how you've got your built-in kind of trails, like built into like hills, a pump track is kind of a portable mountain bike track, so to speak. But it's made for little bikes. So kids like their tricycles, or kids' bikes, and they can go out and do all kinds of curves and hills and.
No, there's going to be a fence along the road?
Yes. Yes, there would be a fence along the road.
Now, how many acres is on this property? Like 100?
38 is the ground lease, but the school had over 130?
Yeah, the school has over 100, and this park is on school property. So I'm not sure exactly the school property size, but our portion that we will be building the park on is about 38 acres.
I mean, it's nice layout, nice design. That property, I just figured it would be better more towards Gardner's Lane instead of right there along 230. I mean, that's just my thoughts, but it is what it is.
So this property is a lease?
A ground lease, yeah.
Yes, it's a ground lease. We have a 30-year ground lease with Jefferson County Schools to develop the property and use it as a park.
Yeah.
What's your timeline? When do you think the park will be open?
So we are hoping, we just got everything, like I said, kind of approved, which is the first phase. So, we are hoping to be able to start. Ideally, I would love to at least get some trees planted and maybe start with some of the bioretention work, the parking lots, within the next year. And we want to start fundraising to try to get the playground built.
Funding is not in place yet.
The funding is not in place yet. No.
What is the projected cost on it?
Research.
I want to say it was like 23 million. Don't quote me. I can definitely get that information to Luke for sure, but I think it was about 23 million for the entire build out of the property.
You have about 6 phases, right?
Yes, we definitely build everything in phases. And the one thing with Parks and Rec is you never know what you're going to get because there's a lot of times that different grant fundings will pop up. So we're eligible for, land and water funding with this project. Potentially TAP funding could come into play. So, if there's a grant that becomes available that could maybe get us the playground, within the next year, we would probably move for that first. Otherwise, we may try to get the infrastructure in place first and kind of move forward with there. So we did the phasing, but did that knowing that, we could bite off little chunks as we go through. We are able to use, we do receive some school levy money from the school levy. And that money has been set aside for the past 5 years to kind of kick this project off and get it started. So
Does Parks and Rec allow sports leagues, youth leagues
yes.
on your facility? So at some time you're going to coordinate, I'm sure some coach is going to coordinate soccer practice out there or football practice.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be one of that, once you build it, they will come situations. So once, we can kind of get things in. We've had a couple of groups reach out to us actually during this process. And, they already, said, can you have turf? We don't want grass fields. We want athletic turf fields. So that was, on the list, but those are very expensive as you want me to know.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, what's great about it is you have 3 sections here. All the way to the right is across the street from the elementary school, which has that sensory friendly playground, the 2 multi-purpose fields kind of in between the other parking lot. And so you can have like young kids in one area that's safe. So and then in the middle, you have the multi-purpose, the pump track and the open area. And then at the end, it's another parking lot. You have it's more adult friendly. So the
Pickleball.
goal is that it's gonna really provide services to everyone in the county, not just one age group, which is great. But, and also impact fees will help with some of this too, that you've been, saving. So.
Yes,
one of our-
absolutely.
Looks like a
Um,
great concept. I wish you the best of success on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, great
I
job.
see that Michael Baker did the concept plan, also doing the engineering.
Yes.
There-
Well, we will officially have to bid that out, but I mean, they would definitely, I'm sure, be interested in doing
They're a
doing the
great-
work.
They're a great company.
Yeah, they were great to work with. Okay. Well, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
All right, now we're going to move on to agenda item number 6, discussion and possible actions regarding dry hydrant research. Staff.
So at the last planning commission meeting, the planning commission directed staff to do two things. Functionally is to place dry hydrants as a research topic to bring back some findings and to put on a discussion and possible action item onto this meeting's agenda. So here it is. So due to the nature of this, as it was, staff considers to be very preliminary research, as it was a put on the agenda. And so what we have done here is staff has basically just pulled something basic from the USDA, as well as our planning intern, John Demko, has generated some of the preliminary stuff, including doing some research as to where we can begin to look for specific land development relevant regulations that are solely held there. I do want to note that his research was confined specifically to these 3 states and looking for key terms that related to dry hydrants, specifically in land development ordinances. This does not preclude there being dry hydrant resources, statutes, what have you, in other parts of either their regulatory framework or just assistance programs that are done through the fire marshals. So the intent behind this very brief memo, as well as the start of this research, is to give a preliminary background to jump into whatever direction Planning Commission directs staff to go from here. So with that in mind, what staff is hoping to do is understand what direction Planning Commission would like to take following this. So we have got a better idea of what you guys want us to do, draft, research, what have you.
Did by chance, when you were doing your research, did you look into the history of dry hydrants that have already been built here?
That has not been performed, at least not to my knowledge. I believe in some side conversations, there's indicated that some do exist in the county, but I personally was not doing any research in that regard. And I believe I have any numbers for you or location, capacity, so on.
So my direction for this when we went forward.
Commissioner, can you hold on for 1 second while the mic gets turned on?
Yeah.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Commissioner.
That's on. My direction going forward, and we just had this last night, had a structure fire last night. My direction going forward with this was to try to put something in place. Over the past 4 years, water sources we've been accessing for fires in rural areas of the county, Summit Point, Leetown, just had one last night at Harpers Ferry. Water seems to be the problem. And after discussion, the Fire Rescue Association, the fire chiefs we discussed with it, was to try to preliminary put something in place for the developments so that there's enough water for one. The fire service looks at one call at a time. So if you've got 5 houses, 6 houses, whatever, if you have at least one dry hydrant in approximate location that will take care of having to run 6, 8, 10 tankers and have inadequate water supply sources. The creeks don't have the water in them. A Peckin Creek, they tried 2 years ago to draft out of that thing, and they had to lay out 40 feet of hard suction horizontally to get a draft out of it. Last night, they had tankers that were running up and down the road, and water was the problem. So ISO recognizes a dry hydrant and within 1,000 feet of a residence, and you get a better ISO rating. Sometimes with what independent fire companies doing right now is working on a tanker task force certification. We're working with ISO on that. And so they look at these dry hydrants and accessibility, and it can be up to a 30% savings on your homeowner's insurance. So that's been addressed at the association level. So I kind of dropped the ball on this in November when I talked with Daniel, and not throwing him on the bus, but he gave me some ideas on how to approach this and move forward. So I thought that if we looked at this and moving forward on housing developments, that they were established, then they would have a really source of water in that development. So I'm not trying to talk in circles. I don't know what question I'm asking or looking for, but I'd like to see dry hydrants installed into housing developments, and either on the developers doing it or working with funding through the county commission on a fee type structure that's on like an impact fee structure or something going through public safety, working on new developments, and then trying to go back in and establish and maybe green space areas on existing developments that don't have these dry hydrants. And then it would also fall under certain commercial aspects down the road for fire suppression. So that's what I'm looking at, and that was the direction I was trying to go to, but we had to get it officially for staff to be able to dig into this.
So essentially, if you had, like the fire you had, I know where it was, if they didn't even have one there and then the development next door had it, you could get water
That's
out of
correct.
there.
That's correct.
And
So-
would they be like a map that you could find?
So right now, on our CAD system on the fire trucks, when we punch in there, it has every water source that's within the area, and the first engine in usually calls out the water source, whether it's a hydrant or so forth. Now, they do have Chief Six, Mike Mood, and Adam Watson, Ross Morgan, different fire chiefs have identified other water sources such as ponds, creeks, and streams. Heck, I've even pulled in and dropped in hard suction into somebody's pool in the backyard, the neighbors. But they are identified on a mapping system, so these will be identified. So we put these in Berkeley County, and they mark down here. We put these in Berkeley County years ago. I think we probably in the south end, we probably put a dozen and a half or so in the south end in different areas. Most of them were hooked to natural streams, and through the conservation office, they look at a 100-year flood plan of whether it's sustainable. And usually they go through the farmers or whatever it's got, and they get a easement agreement, and let's say it's in a pond, and the fire department has 24 access to that. Now, they're out there at Ambler Drive, that development out there. I can't think of it right now. There is one located out there. Not sure the tank size on that one. I think they told me it was somewhere around a 20,000 gallon tank. There is one out there in that development on the Waresville property out there next to Mike McGacky's place. So yes, if it's in this development currently, in your development, and we have a fire over here, instead of having to run 8 miles down the road to get water, we can access that and then give us time to get water over here. So a dry hydrant system saves time. The fire we had in Summit Point 3 years ago, when we sat and did the math, we needed 2,200 gallons of water a minute. And by the time the tankers run all the way up to Locust Hill and run all the way up to Frederick County, Virginia, we were moving 34 gallons of water a minute. So it's a figure and a factor that you use for, if water's not moving, it's no good. So you need to have close access for water.
Now who maintains these? Volunteer fire departments,
So
county?
So that's something that has to be discussed on what we put in the ordinance. So typically, some of the different areas of the United States that I've been employed to, we've used dry hydrants for fire suppression. If the fire department empties it on, let's say, my structure fire, then the fire department would fill it back up, and then it would be billed to my insurance company for the refill. Does that make sense? So let's say it costs $3,000 to refill it, then that would get billed back for just the refill of it. So these are things that I know it's logistics on financing and putting it together, but we have to start somewhere.
You're thinking of this in addition to the current hydrant requirements, not in lieu of.
No, it would be for the rural areas where there's no hydrants. So once you get outside of town, there's no hydrants at all. I mean, Summit Point, Lee Town, Shirley Road. At one time, the pond on my grandfather's farm out there, we've drafted out it many times. That pond has been dry since 1989. Okay, you know where I'm talking about there. Both of y'all know that. Okay, the stream in Lee Town, for example, there's hydrants out there, but we've drafted out the stream in Lee Town. It's been dry for 5 years. You know which one I'm talking about right there along Lee Town Road. So if the dry hydrants are located within the developments, it's safer access for the fire departments. It's easier connections, the storage connection, it's easier connection. They put a pumper right there. They're able to fill the tankers right there, and whatever size we determine by the fire load on whatever size houses might be there on a single family dwelling, then it might be a 10, it might be a 15,000 gallon tank that's installed underground. You don't have to worry about them freezing. Maintenance, there's very minimal maintenance. Ones we put in Berkeley County, other than cars hitting them along the road and breaking them off, there's not been any maintenance for them at all. I know at Independent, we go out there and we've messed with that one out there some. I know neighboring Loudoun County, those guys practice with them twice a year. They flush them, go back and forth. The ones that are in natural source, because they have to be flushed, but this wouldn't have to be flushed because it's in a tank.
Well, I think it's a great idea just to implement it the right way. And, just like Middleway's example, we got Ablo Estates there. If you had one there, then you're going out there, Summit Point, the other development, you had some there, you'd have water close by.
Hey, that's the biggest thing, because with a combination system right now in the county, you might get 3 tankers when you dispatch 6 tankers.
And looking at your, the ordinance, relevant ordinance, like comps in Maryland, a lot of this is like rural area, like St. Mary's does not have a lot of public.
No.
There in St. Mary's, what it's, I mean, that's the tip of Southern Maryland, but it's very rural and there's only like a couple small towns that have
These are
public
rural.
water.
That's-
So that's similar to what we have. We have some areas, but then we have very rural areas. What's the cost of one dry hydrant?
So,
Typically?
so some of the research that I've done, you're looking typically about it could be between $10,000 and $20,000.
For install and,
Tank install and done.
And how big's the tank? How many?
Some of them, 10, you could do 10, 15,000 gallons, 20,000 gallons.
And that would be enough?
Well, that's what we're gonna have to look at. What I'll do is we'll have to break down and see the fire load for, what would you consider your typical structures right now? At least running 4,000 square feet, most of them.
2-story structure.
Yeah, so you're looking at about 4,000 square foot home. So the second floor is usually half of what the first floor is on when you're doing fire load. So if you looked at what the fire load would be, so install a tank that's compatible for the surrounding structures, let's say within a mile radius,
It's
2 mile
it's
radius.
probably been more than 20 years since we had some of those dry hydrants installed. And my recollection is that they were offered as proffers by the developer.
Mhm.
And the reason that they stopped doing it was because the fire company went to use them and they were dry. There was no water in them because there was no provision for maintaining them, and the homeowners associations weren't interested.
Well, that's what, putting an ordinance together, then you would put that together where, I mean, they shouldn't go dry. You're gonna have some evaporation, but if they're checked at least yearly, that's not a big problem.
I don't think they were ever checked at all.
Well, that's what I was asking. If the fire departments maintain them, like you said, developer proffered them. I mean, 20,000 doesn't really seem like a big deal to a major subdivision. But just who's going to maintain them?
Well, and that's so moving forward with this, we've been in conjunction with the Fire and Rescue Association. They asked where this was going forward. And that's something, of course, they're meeting tonight because they postponed their meeting last week. So we couldn't bring that tonight to discuss on what their proposals were moving forward. I haven't had a chance to talk with the county commission too much, with particularly Commissioner Mood and Commissioner Keys. She's the representative for the Fire and Rescue Association.
although I did roll off. I don't know if I told you that.
Oh, no. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. Well,
Sorry.
she was. So
Yeah.
she was the point contact between the two. So this is something we were going to bring up to see, okay, what suggestions we have on the Fire and Rescue Association moving forward. And then on the county commission side on it to see what there was, because this is going to be a collaboration of those two agencies moving forward with funding to see what was going on. But if we put it through the development and they said, okay, this has to be installed, you get a developer that jumps up and down, says, I don't want to spend the extra $10,000, $20,000. Well, if you're putting it on the backs of the homeowner, hypothetically, you're saving 35% over the next 6-8 years. It pays for itself. If, it depends on the amount of houses that's in there. Does that make sense?
I have a couple questions that you mentioned, and I think all this makes sense. Because I did kind of see where the fire was. I was kind of curious last night. So, and I do see that there's some gaps. Number one, you said you have a CAD system that's got most of the water sources and water lines, things mapped out, so that the fire responding units understand where those are at. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
Okay. Has that been transferred into any type of county GIS where we can see where your gaps are?
So the GIS has actually put this together and they've transferred over to 911 and to the CAD system and then on our Chief 360 that we have on our phone.
Okay.
So if I'm responding as an officer, I can look up and see my water sources.
So for planning purposes, why I'm asking about GIS, because it's something that if we need to undertake, request the staff to undertake to see where, if we can really hone in on where the gaps are, start looking at quantities. What are we talking about? How many tanks, how big, where?
So that has been identified by ISO as what they call a gray area. We just met with them last year. And so some of the gray areas of the county was identified. And then what we did was I had GIS print me off a map. We have 2 maps that's over at Independent Fire Company. If you want to stop and look at them, you can stop.
I would say that would be helpful for this commission if we're going to vote on an ordinance or come up with something. We kind of need to understand what we're
Right.
recommending to the
So-
council. So if we can put that into, translate into kind of the planning type GIS,
That's
can.
where we got to get to that point.
Okay,
So yes, it has identified of where the major structure fires are in the county. And if you look at them, majority of them in the rural areas.
Yep.
Okay. So we're trying to, as they said with this tonight, we're trying to do baby steps to see if we can want to keep going forward with this. Conservation funding's not there. It was available last year for grants. We got the notification at the last minute. And then when I reached out to them to put for existing systems in, put new systems in, funding was cut off and dried up. So you can't rely on that all the time.
I would offer that as this commission, this falls within the realm of the planning profession where you're looking at infrastructure and resources required to support communities. So I would recommend that we at some point move forward with coming up with a plan that where do these things go? If you already have that information, okay, what does that look like? Start doing the tabulations on where these things go.
Well,
How
I'd like
big
to
was-
see it start with new development.
Well,
That's the first.
Well, that's a thing here. I mean, we can get that going forward. And in the back of our mind, in this whole plan, maybe we need to look at also where could we put some, like, just say like my farm.
Right.
You know what I mean? If there's an area, and then where did that fund come from? Obviously, new subdivision, they're going to do whatever they can. I mean, what's 20 or 30,000 on a major subdivision?
Yeah, I would offer, this is not just one or the other, it's both. It's all one big plan that you want to come up with.
you're working 2 tracks here.
That's right.
You're starting at 0. You're identifying a way to get it funded, but it may not be in the right place, but it's still closer than it is now. And you're identifying gaps where other funding can be
Yeah,
provided to put them where you need them.
This is all needs to come together into one thing, and
Well,
then you pick at it as a plan. And I'll offer this to you. I'm not a firefighter, but I understand the concept of what you're trying to get. So what I'm telling you is that if we put this together, because you just have to figure all these things out. Where's the money going to come from? How are we going to get? And there's still a whole other discussion about going forward, how you get somebody on a new development to do that. Okay, you turn that over to an HOA. They're probably not going to have the wherewithal how to maintain that and keep that operational for what the fire department
But as
needs.
Bruce said, if the fire company,
I'm sorry to cut in, Commissioner Hayes. Could you make sure you're using the microphone? Thank you, sir.
if the fire companies are maintaining it, then
That's
That-
Yeah, the
problem.
developer puts it in, walks away. The
Right.
homeowner association don't have nothing to do with it. It's there. The fire department's
I
maintaining.
would, anything with, and I have anything dealing with that has an HOA's within their purview is responsibility within that development is problematic.
It's going to
Well,
drop the ball.
You would need an
sure.
easement.
You need
Yeah.
an easement, but again, even in my HOA, I tried to fix this problem. I'm not going to call any names out here, but we can't even maintain the roads or figure out a maintenance plan to do that. And that's the thing, that's my concern. So what I'm saying is that, yes, we have all these, we need to tackle all these and maybe they are going to be taken off in chunks. There's one going back to where we need to strategically put stuff where your gaps are identified.
Well, the bear doesn't need to be big. Starting now is simple. And as firefighter says, you got to keep it simple and keep it hot or we're not interested.
I agree. Right.
So we start with baby steps
starting at 0,
and
1 is more than 0.
so we start right here, ground zero, and future developments is where I'd like to see this go first. Then work with county commission to see what we can have funding going forward for existing developments or existing parcels
I think
and work aggressively with grants like you and I talked with the association last year
I think one of the things, if we give it a few years with new developments, and there's a lot of ifs, because we haven't even talked about, minimum lot size, would it be
Mhm.
all new? So that's a whole nother thing. But we could use GIS or the CAD to figure out areas that we could.
Down the road.
Down the road that we could consider some sort of easement with, say it's a farm that has,
Well, that's what we
20 by
did in
20,
Berkeley.
we'd do an
Yes.
easement.
Now,
So-
now, staff, interns, y'all getting all this? We got to come up with some direction for them.
We can
Yeah.
summarize.
We
this.
are
That's
going to
what I was
have
going-
one
what is
heck
that-
of a motion at the end of this is staff's
What is-
request.
Bruce, what is your proposed next step for July 2026?
I would like to see put this together for something to go out for the public for new future developments.
How about we ask staff to prepare a draft ordinance
For
for our review initially for subdivisions? Again, we have to hash out the size, we have to hash out the lot size, we have to hash out the major, minor, what have you.
Because
But we can't hash out anything without something to start from.
Right.
We're talking generalities right now where we have nothing to really work with.
Tonight, I just put the purpose of why we want it and why I wanted to bring this up for tonight's meeting. So therefore staff can move forward, that I would like to see this moving forward for future developments.
So I make a motion that we request that staff for the August meeting, not for the July 28th meeting, for the August meeting, provide us with a draft ordinance with the best available background information of what's already in place for new subdivisions, major subdivisions.
For dry hydrants.
For
Dry,
dry
yes.
houses. Okay, to be clear, for dry. houses.
Because look at it this way, you could have, I don't know, you could have a development that's got, let's say, a couple hundred homes in it, spread out large acre lots. You could end up having 2 or 3 in that development. Depends on the amount of houses in it.
So do we want this only on a
The
major?
August meeting gives you roughly a month. Is that enough time?
We haven't seconded it yet,
No.
right?
Honestly, probably not. Staff bandwidth is severely constrained right now. And
Okay.
frankly, it's only thanks to the fact that we have a planning intern, John, here to help us out with this, that I would,
How much time
I
would you
mean,
like to have?
conceivably, we can have the bones in August and I would probably have
And
something.
Can I
for
say
you.
we are so lucky to have John? You're awesome, John. Thank you.
Okay.
Helping us this summer.
All right, we have a motion. You want to change your
Second.
motion
Oh, go ahead.
or you want to leave it like it is?
I
Let's
would,
make-
no- I'm sorry to cut in
No.
the middle of the motion here. I would note that I do know we've got another text amendment in September. So there is a good reason to have some bones in August or staff can, if you even want to give staff a little bit of wiggle room of what we have ready, we will present. That's not generally my preference, but it'll give us a jumping off point to some.
Well,
Capacity.
that'll give us some time to think too, and then
Well,
see what
because
you
this is
have.
new,
Yeah.
like Tim and I've talked, but if this is something new, and as you said, we got to start at 0. This is 0, so we got to move forward with it. So if you have something in August, like he said, if it doesn't come together in August, that's fine. We can move it till September or October.
I
But-
do not believe we're going to be able to have
Let's just
a
get it right when
fully
we do it.
fleshed out and ready ordinance, but I believe we
Okay.
can at least have something to start playing with.
I
Draft
think,
every-
I think we
draft.
understand that. I don't
Yeah.
think we think you're going to have something.
We need a conversation starter.
Yes.
I can do a conversation starter.
Okay.
All right, we have a
Thanks to the
motion
people around me,
Second.
But we
and
can't.
a second.
Okay, so do we only want this for major? And could we give some
Good point.
background on what major versus minor means with lot amount? And
Would you think anything 5 houses or more?
so that would
What's
be
a minor
minor.
subdivision now?
2 lots.
2 lots. So yeah, you don't want a minor subdivision,
No, I
major
think
subdivision.
anything at least 5 houses or more.
Anything, what is considered major subdivision?
So functionally, the reason we would at least like to start with major subdivisions is, and this is something Jonathan and I started tossing around, is because a major subdivision requires infrastructure. So typically that's, your roads, your sidewalks and such.
Right.
It's probably a better starting place for us to get this moving because there might be some, and I say might be some state code considerations in requiring additional infrastructure for a minor subdivision. Our preference here is to at least frame this around majors until Jonathan and I can make sure we understand 8A.
Well, I don't
in this
think
regard.
I don't think it should go for a minor. I mean, I think major is kind of where we're seeing it.
Yeah, but how many houses
Again, this is a conversation starter. If they
Yeah.
just bring us something
Right.
to work from and give everybody a month,
Well,
four
let me
weeks
ask
and
a
start.
question.
hashing out
Have we
things.
had any major subdivisions that haven't been served by public water?
Yeah, that's, I don't think that.
We
right.
have, and I do understand that is a bit of the drawback to this preface. And I would point to a Hallmark
Most of
Glen
them. all-
and
that major?
Harvest Meadows that they are not. However, if the intent here is to be serving the rural community, not requiring for minors is a drawback. However, you know, if there's a state code concern, which we still need to do the proper research on, that's something we need to keep in mind as well.
I'd like to see 5 lot minimum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's.
I think that's a good
Start point.
starting point. You do
5
have
lot.
some capability to develop the large lot, even in a small, in the middle of a rural area that may be on well. And then you've got to figure out how you're going to address that. So I would say 5 or more,
I'll amend my motion as such and,
exclusive of minor. We can get to that point later,
Yeah.
but I
Hey,
think
this
the
is going to be baby steps trying to figure this out.
pending research on the legality.
Has been properly moved and second. Any more discussion?
Commissioners, if I could just make sure I've got this correctly here. The motion is to have staffed bring the motion or the item back in August, a draft ordinance for subdivisions over 5 lots, something to that effect, for dry hydrants. I probably should put in there land use somewhere, but yes, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
To clarify, when you say 5 lots, you're talking about the 6th lot, not
No,
5.
5 and up.
Talking
Right.
about.
So if you're putting.
You're not
any-
including 5. Because
5 lot
minor
minimum.
subdivisions stop at 5 lots. And then once you get to the 6th lot, you have to go major.
And push come to shove, we just need something in front of us.
Okay.
Get us
Yeah.
5. If it has to go to 6, it goes to 6. If it's not.
Whatever, whatever
it's
kind of
not.
jives of what you already got there. So if it's 6, then it's 6.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sound all right?
All right.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, just one tailing comment. I appreciate you bringing this up about infrastructure going forward for communities. Based on what I've been seeing so far, I think this is one thing that's been lacking throughout the county. I think we've talked a little bit about some of our neighbor jurisdictions that aren't taking all this into account when they're approving things. I would offer that in the future, we should start thinking about, again, we've talked about proffering things, but we should all be thinking about parkland. How are they contributing to that? And when we offer a new development, how are we dealing with streets and infrastructure that is going to be impacted by this, in this case, it's fire service?
Well, see, it's
And-
underground. You just got to pipe it.
I understand, but
That's the best thing about it.
I understand that. What I'm saying is that we need to begin to think that way. We're thinking about this thing moving forward. There are other things in this county and from the planning's perspective that we need to be advised of and that we need to start doing our best to encourage our developers to make sure they bring enough to the table to support the development and not be going backwards to try to fix a problem that we could have solved with good planning up front. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And I was thinking about traffic. You know, we are doing some things with traffic, but are the roadways actually big enough? You look over there by Inferno Brewery, those roads are going to be big enough for all them houses? Probably not. So I think, but again, there's an appreciation of you bringing that up and that we start applying that kind of thinking to other things that go along with these developments as we go forward. Thank you.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Agenda item number 7, reports from legal counsel. Do we have any?
Essentially, we're still in the same status on the Sidewinder case. There have been briefings, and I believe, although I'm not the counsel on that case, I believe that the briefings are either concluded or nearly concluded, and the matter will be before the court for decision, which could be this fall and it could be next spring.
Could they hear the case or make a decision before they're actually heard, but with just the briefs? Or would it definitely be in court?
I'm sorry, I didn't track the question. Would they make a decision before
Yeah, with the
The
briefs,
briefs were
with the
there.
briefs shown, do the Supreme Court sometimes will make a, like a declarative before some sort of trial or hearing, right?
They have, sometimes they will make decisions on the briefs alone, and sometimes they will have oral argument. Again, I'm not the counsel on this case, but I suspect in this case, they will have oral argument. So they will set up a hearing and have the parties come and argue the case, and then they will make their decision after that.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 8, planners memo.
Thank you. I have 2 items for the planner's memo. We'll start with the unfortunate news or bad news first, I suppose. Staff made a mistake about a few weeks ago. We missed a legal ad. It is a staff mistake. I want to be clear on this. This was not something that the applicant neglected to do. And after we discovered the lapse in the legal ad required for a concept plan, we immediately reached out to the applicant and we worked with him to come up with this alternate date to rectify this mistake. And after speaking with Commissioner Smith, a meeting for, and to be clear, this is a regular meeting. Planning Commission meets on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays. However, typically you don't need to meet on the 4th Tuesday. That's partially a holdover from the original ordinances, but it also is very handy in circumstances like this. So it is my apologies that, we're requiring or asking you guys to come in. It is my intent to only have 2 items on this meeting, just to have the concept plan public workshop, to rectify the situation with the applicant, and ideally the meeting minutes from this meeting, but that has more to do with public transparency codes.
Luke, didn't we just talk about this last year in the more meetings?
We did.
What?
At
We
a
just
certain
talked about
point
this.
here, if you want staff to retain what's left of their hair, we're adding more bandwidth, so we're moving past this.
I got a
but,
razor.
this
We can
is
get rid
some
of the hair.
the rub from that. Second, and if there's no questions on that, I'm happy to transfer some much better news. John Demko has been getting a lot of attention here because some of the research was on an earlier action item, but I do want to introduce 3 new staff members. Ms. Madison Askin sitting next to me is our new county planner. County planner, much like Colin Ury did, does plan review. We'll be working on a number of the text amendments and research that we've either been tasked with from the county commission, planning commission, or what have you. And frankly, is going to be running a lot of other projects as we move forward. Ms. Quinn Walsall behind me is our planning clerk. You might be able to see them. Sorry, we're running out of space in this front table here. That is our intake position, but they're also the front line with any customer questions and making sure the office is humming along smoothly. See above issue, that is something they'll be able to help us out with a great deal. And John Demko, off to my right over here, is our planning intern for this summer. And they've been an immense help in doing research. That's why we keep asking and thankfully been getting approval from the county commission to have summer interns, because they've been a massive force multiplier for us in doing this essential research for text amendments. The problem is we keep actually being able to do these and we just keep on getting more piled on here. So we're doing our best with what we have here, and we got a fantastic team that we are training up, and that's my report on our new staff. You guys will start hearing from them, and obviously I know some of you guys were able to meet them earlier.
Yeah, awesome. Welcome.
That is all I had, Mr. President.
Jonathan was at John was at the July 4th party at the San Michael's Park. So.
Luke, you're not getting a birthday present this year.
Do we have the option of virtual if any commissioners are very busy on the 28th?
The more useful members of my staff have learned to make sure that we can now have that capacity. So if any of the planning commissioners need to join over Zoom, we can make that happen.
All right. All right, next we got president's report. I have none. Item number 10, actual correspondence.
We do not have any actionable or non-actionable correspondence for this meeting.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned.